Hi everyone, welcome to today's lecture. My name is Katarina and I am in Group 2 along with Gwen, Matt, and Trevor. And today we're going to be discussing the reading by Beth E. Ritchie, which focuses on the social construct of the immoral Black mother. And some main points that we're going to be discussing today are social policy, community policing, and the effects on the overall youth violence. So, Black mothers have been stereotyped as incompetents, but with the help of Ritchie's study, we're able to see that Black mothers whose children have either witnessed or experienced violence just go to show that the stereotypes are just overall misinterpreted. And within our reading, we see that this thesis is the exploring of the impact of youth violence and the social problems that it's causing on mothers and their day-to-day lives. So a method that Ritchie had in his writing is the life history method, which is just an interview study. And he focused on the population of about 24 women who ranged from the ages of 19 to 69 years old. And they all came from an low income community. So this ranged from mothers and guardians who are either pregnant or are already parenting, mothers who live either in public housing or public shelters, and we also see some primary caretakers of children who either come from like institutions of juveniles. So, Ritchie's study had four basic areas that were covered within the interviews. And it began with just an open ended question like, tell me things about yourself and what are important to you. And then moved on to what it was like raising the children in the household and in the neighborhood. And also then capturing all of the experiences and perceptions of gender and youth violence and how it affected their lives. And then lastly, they just wanted to focus on how this would overall affect their lives in the future. So within the reading, we can see that there are 5 different themes that are introduced. So when we see in our first theme, it focuses on the diminished ability to parent due to limited economic and social supports within the context of urban decay. So with this, it basically is saying that doing the right thing for your children isn't enough. It's not working. So some of the social conditions that led Black mothers to marginalized positions are economy, infrastructure, education, and policy. And then moving on to our second theme, we can see that the constant fear of losing children to public agencies. So this is really scary because the state is raising the children and they're not doing a very good job, and the mothers have to sit there and face that. So overall, the mothers have to deal with running away from like people like social workers and probation officers and CPS. So the policy that Black mothers have to hinder their ability to parent would be when children know that their mothers are being watched by other authorities. They tend to act out more because they think that they're going to be able to get away with it, which can later become troubling, and it's overall pretty scary. So in our third theme, we focus on the fear of abuse and injury. And this is a combined mistrust of outside agencies, community loyalty, and the subjective desire to enact some degree of agency in their family and community. So overall, there is a combination of policy and violence, which has a dramatic impact on mothers' lives. And this is due to mothers just being more vulnerable to policy and violence, which makes their jobs as mothers much harder. They want to be able to help out their children and get them out of trouble whenever they can, but they are often attacked by young men when they're trying to do this. Young Black men tend to get away with this violence, which puts younger Black women in danger. So, in our fourth theme, we focus on the generalized, culturally constructed loyalty to Black men. So, the rhetoric surrounding of young Black men is the idea that they are more susceptible to abuse from society and that women are treated better. But this is actually harmful to Black men because not only can this lead to a victim mentality among these men, but they can start to think that they can just get away with bad behavior. And because the men think that they can get away with this bad behavior, young women become more vulnerable to abuse by the hand of young Black men, which is harmful to young women. In our last theme, we focus on the involvement in prevention initiatives and community activism, which focuses on the history of Black women's community involvement and their experiences of powerlessness and the overall sense of failure and the increased harm, risk of harm that has come upon them. So when Richie is interviewing these women, we can see that there has been a huge impact in the living situations of decaying urban communities, and it overall complicates mothers' lives. So we can see this within businesses such as movie theaters, parks, libraries, hospitals, mental health facilities. There's been a decline in availability for public transportation. This has an impact on schools. We see this within like metal detectors everywhere, gated railing. This just leads to an overall symbolic community fear and makes mothers' lives much harder when they're trying to raise their children because it's a tougher environment, there's little social support, symbolic fear, and economic decay. So mothers are constantly, just in fear that they don't know how their children are going to end up, and they don't want their children to be experiencing this on a day-to-day basis and just want what is best for them. So due to the decaying of the urban communities, we see that Black women tend to feel powerless. And this is just due to them being portrayed as single heads of households, and just public socialization systems are failing both them and also their children. Black women feel alienated when it comes to schools, and they can see that their only description that they give schools, it's very similar to a prison. So most considerations of mothering that Black women do is introduced into the political, social debates from very different social locations. When looking at the article, we can see that there is differences between how poverty has played a role in these mothers' lives and what their children face through poverty. So poverty now is not the same as when these mothers were growing up. So the children today are experiencing more violence, and it's just been more hostility from the outside. And then a lot of these mothers just don't know how to support their children because of this, which has just become an overall danger to their society and everyday living. We have come up with a couple of discussion questions for you to look over. We appreciate you taking the time to look over our lecture, and have a wonderful day.